Breathe deep. Imagine your legs more limber in Duluth Trading Double Flex Denim. Envision euphorically squatting for that can of suds, bending for your toolbox in a state of bliss, lunging for your laser level on a whole new level. Relax and allow the flex to fill you with ability. Find your inner flex in Double Flex Denim only at Duluth Trading.
Welcome to People Tech, the podcast of the HCM Technology Report. I'm Mark Pfeffer. My guest today is Arvind Jain, the CEO of Glean. His product is designed to help users find information that's available but often hidden throughout a company's systems. The idea is that this data is critical to a business. It helps people do their jobs better by giving them access to what they need to be more effective. We're going to talk about that, where content's been and where it's going on this edition of People Tech. Arvind, welcome. It's good to see you. First of all, can you describe Glean? What's it do? And what's the problem that it's trying to solve?
Absolutely. So we are a young technology company, that was started in 2019. The core product for Glean, so Glean is your work assistant. It's a tool that employees in a company can use to get more things done at work. It helps them in a variety of ways. The core part of our product is, number one, it's a search engine for work. So as an employee, when you're looking for information that's spread across so many different applications that you use, or you just have a question that you need an answer for, Glean brings those answers back to you quickly. So it sort of helps you find the information you need, the answers that you need to get your job done. It's also a tool that allows you to stay connected with your company, with your work, with your teammates. So think about what's new in the company today. Like, I'm working from home. I'm not actually getting to talk to the different people in the company to see what they are up to. So Glean is also that place where you discover new information that's relevant to you in your company. You get to learn about people, what they're working on. You also get to learn about, hey, where should I be paying attention to? Is there some new knowledge, some new documents, some news articles that I should be paying attention to because they're relevant to me. So Glean sort of brings that notion of discovery and assistant to you as an employee as well. So those are our core use cases. The problem that we're trying to solve is if you think about the modern workplace, there are two very large trends that are sort of really transforming that workplace. Number one is that companies are increasingly becoming more distributed, right? As a company, we have people all over the place in many different continents, and people are sort of by themselves. They're alone, they're at home, they're working when other people are sleeping. And so in that sort of model where you sort of get so distance from the company, like, how do you help them stay connected with the company? How do you actually get them the help they need? When I'm working from my home and I have a question, there's nobody that I can lean on to actually get that answer from. So how do you help them with that? So that's what Glean does. And then also the other big trend in the workplace is we are business technology has completely gotten transformed with the SaaS revolution. If you think about businesses today, they're using a very large number of business applications, each one of them solving some very specific business need. And that number of applications keep growing every year because these days is there's a democratization of business applications, where I can actually build an application and it's very easy for me to get it distributed. It's also as a person within a company, it's also very easy for you to go and start using a tool or a product. It's easy, right? You can just go on the on the web, like swipe your credit card and start using an application. So in this new model, what has happened is that lot of awesome applications have gotten built to solve different business applications, and companies have started to use them. So the number of applications that you use has grown up it has grown a lot. And so that's great because you get as a as a business owner, you get to solve different problems with best in breed tools. But the problem is that if you think about now your company knowledge, it's sort of gotten fragmented across all these applications. So when your task is to actually find a specific piece of information, it becomes hard. And so that's why Glean's search technology sort of helps solve that problem.
Now, I'm curious about what's going on under the hood. Glean searching across data from the entire company.
Yeah.
So installing it or implementing it's more than flipping a switch. What do you do to get yourself set up for a particular company?
Yeah, that's a great question. So actually setting up Glean and getting it to work at a company is actually a very very quick, fast process. Typically, companies are able to set up Glean in under an hour. Because what is the other thing we were talking about this big transformation driven by SaaS applications. One of the things is that in this modern world, there is an expectation from any application developer to actually build really good APIs, so that application can work with all the other applications that I have in my company. So applications have become open. They have really good APIs, and you can actually connect to them. And you can connect to them and actually get content from those, understand who has access to that content. And so for us, when you're trying to deploy Glean, you go, the process is very simple. You go to our web app, and you will see the directory of tools that Glean can connect to, and you will just click on the ones that you want to connect to, the ones that you use in your business, and follow like a few screens. Where you sort of hit a few buttons, enter a few information, and there you go. You actually establish a connection between Glean and, say, for example, Slack, right? Say another application that you use is Google Drive. You'll do the same process. You'll go through the Glean app, go and hit the button, the Google Drive button, and say connect to that, and it will take you through like a few screens of where you enter some information, and then you're done. So that's sort of it's a fairly lightweight process to actually connect Glean to your different enterprise SaaS apps. Is the what is so you can actually be up and running in just under an hour, if you're trying to connect 5 or 6 or 7 applications. It's fairly easy. You don't have to actually do any implementation or engineering work.
Now, one of the things that struck me is you have a lot of connector partnerships, Slack, Microsoft. I think it's more than 30 if I was counting right.
Yeah, probably more like 60 or more. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It keeps growing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about them because they seem to be an important part of your strategy. And so I wondered if you could explain that strategy and how do the connectors fit in?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing to note is that, again, we are benefiting from the open API ecosystem. So we actually haven't made, actually done any partnerships as such. Like we don't actually have a formal partnership with Slack or Microsoft or any of these companies. We're just using, their open APIs to connect with those tools. And just like us, anybody else can also do the same. So just wanted to clarify that, basically, our core product, our core product capability is we can connect with the most popular SaaS applications, enterprise applications that exist out there, and then we can build a unified search experience over the content that resides in all of those apps. Right now, to be able to do that, again, we are leveraging the open APIs that these tools have, and they need to have the thing is that today, if you're going to be if you want to actually build an enterprise application, let's say you're Slack or you are let's say a document authoring tool. If you're going to build an application and you want it to be a big tool in the enterprise, then you will have to build it in a way where you have open APIs to it. You have to actually give your customers the ability to actually inspect, all the content that sits in your application, give an ability for them to export all of that content, for example, if they wanted to migrate away from your app to some other applications. So these are demands that are actually today placed on any enterprise tool that wants to actually have good traction, because otherwise you won't be able to sell your product if you don't have those open APIs. So our strategy is basically to just ride on that modern trend, which is all applications that are going to get built, they're going to have open APIs, and therefore we'll be able to connect with them.
How many of your users are accessing through a connector? Is it a large proportion, a medium proportion?
Sorry. So when you say that, how are users connecting through connectors? I didn't understand that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, how are they accessing Glean? Are they if they're doing it through Slack, say, or any of these 60 partners? I'm curious to know how many Glean users are accessing it through one of these connectors.
I see. So that's actually, yeah. So there are two parts to it. One is we connect to these applications, but then people use Glean as a standalone product. So, and we have mechanisms where you can actually make this your default homepage on your browser. So every time you open a new tab in your browser, you're going to actually see the Glean search box. Sort of like very, very, similar to like in Google. You have a search box and you'll go and type in, whatever question you have. Now, the answer to that question could have been in Slack or in Google Drive or in Confluence or Jira, right? It doesn't matter. Glean will actually bring those search results back to you. So you're not using Glean through Slack or through Google Drive. You're using Glean as a standalone product. In the backend, we are connected to those applications. And we did that so that we could search over the content in those applications, right? So as an end user, this is a new product for you. So that's the core. That's how most people use Glean, is that they look at Glean as their workplace search engine and workplace knowledge discovery engine, right? And they use it directly. But actually, there's an additional part which we have not talked about so far, which is, yes, you can actually also experience the Glean product from, for example, right when you are within Slack. So an example of that is, say that you are in a channel and you ask a question, and you're really asking the people in that channel, like hoping that one of them is going to answer your question. But you can actually install the Glean application within your Slack environment as one of, because we have a Slack application for Glean. And if you install that, then Glean is sort of, looking for these conversations. And when somebody asks a question, and if Glean knows the answer to it, is going to actually, show that answer to the user before, and instantaneously, obviously, before like somebody else in the channel has to go and answer that question. So that's a different integration. And some, so people do use Glean, embedded in these native apps also. But the primary way how people use Glean is, using it as an independent product.
Greetings from Evergreen Podcasts. We're rolling out a listener survey, and we want to hear from you. The information in the survey will help us gather statistics and in turn make our shows more appealing to advertisers. I know most people don't like ads, but this is one of the only ways our shows make money and help keep their lights on. We promise it will only take a few minutes, but the impact on our podcasts will be tremendous. As a token of our appreciation, we'll randomly select one lucky participant each month to win an exclusive merchandise package from Evergreen Podcasts. Head to evergreenpodcast.com/listenersurvey to help a show and possibly get some free stuff for doing so. We can't thank you enough for the support. Now back to the show.
There's a lot of talk this year about delivering services in the flow of work, through Slack or something like that.
Yeah.
And some people, I've heard say, they've said the UX is moving away from the vendor and going to the connector, delivering information through Slack or someone else.
Yeah.
What's your thought about that? Do you think there's a movement among HR tech vendors to emphasize, these third parties?
Yeah. So, So I think there are two parts to this. So one is, as a business, you are buying a very large number of applications, like hundreds of them, and it's really hard for like for as a user in the company for you to actually remember and keep track of so many different applications, and each one of them having their own UI, and that's sort of like the the overload that people are like struggling with. It's just like it's hard enough, as a individual, like once you start to use more than 10 applications, it becomes overwhelming for you. So and therefore that drives this notion of that, hey, if you have solved a business problem, can you actually bring that value in one of those existing apps that people are already familiar, you are already familiar with, they use it every day. So that's definitely a big trend. And the and Glean does the same thing, which is we know where a user is. For example, if you're an engineer, you spend a lot of time maybe in tools like Jira and Confluence and GitHub, right? If you're a salesperson, you are actually spending a disproportionate amount of your working time being logged in into Salesforce, right? And when you are in these tools, you have questions. You have questions all the time. And people have questions, like when any task you're doing, you'll have some question, some need. And it's painful, like, when you have a question that you have to leave that workflow that you're in. Say that you're actually looking at a customer and a case that they'd filed, and they had a question, you need an answer to that. Now, if you have to actually go, from that Salesforce app, go to your browser, open a new window, and go to a different search tool and try to go and find the answer to that question, so that then you can come back into your Salesforce case page where you were before to answer that question. That's like a lot of there's a good amount of overhead and inconvenience there. So that's why with Glean also what we do is that, hey, you are in Salesforce, bring up the Glean search right there. Don't leave that page. So we have a keyboard, like for example, for our users, we give them a keyboard shortcut. You press Command J, and right where you are, like you may be on the Salesforce case page, or you may be on a Jira ticket, and the Glean UI just pops up on top of that, and you can quickly ask a question, see a result, take that result and embed that into that case screen that you were on already. So you never have to leave. So that's a big trend. So that's certainly that is something that every vendor today, they need to actually think about when they solve a business need. They should both think about how to build their own native product experience, but also ensure that they bring value, to their customers in that sort of skinless mode, right? Where you can embed into any other workflow or any other application and add value there.
How much thought did you give to these kind of workflow issues when you were designing and developing the product?
This has always been core. So you mentioned this term before, that help the users where they are. That's really the key. That has been our guiding principle from day one. And actually, let's discuss an example. Say that you are in Slack in a channel, and there's some discussion happening, and you see a person writing something, and you see that response is interesting, and you want to learn who this person is. Now, is the right model at that point that, hey, you go in a separate screen and then you log into Workday, which will take 15 seconds, and then you load the employee search page, type in the name of that person, and then get the information on them? Or you actually you just stay in Slack and just quickly click on their name there, and all the information pops up right there. And that HR tool could have actually enabled that by building that integration with Slack or with Glean, and sort of bring all of that information to the user right in that Slack experience where the user was at that point. So it's really important. So it's been as we have designed our product over the last 3 years, that has been one of our core requirements always, that we need to help users where they are. We don't want them to have to sort of come to our tools separately. In fact, most users don't. They actually come to us either through these app integrations or through their Chrome new tab page, where we bring the Glean search box right to, like, every time they open a new window, they will actually see a Glean search box. So nobody, for example, typically would go and type in a URL in their Chrome, in the browser, address bar to go to Glean. It always comes to them.
My last question is, you get this very sophisticated platform that can search a lot of data. What's your thinking about its growth? You're a relatively new company, but where do you want to go to?
So our vision is, we want to actually help every worker in every company in the world, find answers to their questions quickly and get more things done. Now, if you think about this problem, which is that as an employee, as a worker, you have to do tasks every day, and you always have a lot of questions, like a lot of information needs, where you have to find the right piece of information to do your job. People spend a lot of time on this. I mean, there's studies that have been done that show that as employees, we spend a quarter or a third of our time just looking for information. If you look at our workday, like your workday or my workday, 1/3 or 1/4 of all of that time is just going to get spent, where we're just looking for some information. So this is a very big problem. And it's getting harder and harder for people to find those pieces of information that they need, because first, like, there's so much information, like, we are in a data-driven world. There's so much data that as a business, we generate and we store. And so the volume of, the information that is out there that we need to sift through and find, what we need, that is growing a lot. And second, the fragmentation, like, how siloed that information is across a very large number of tools, that is also getting more and more complicated every year. And that, coupled with the fact that you don't have help, like, as a remote worker, for example, you don't get to actually look over your shoulder and ask the person sitting next to you, hey, how do I do this? Every time you have information need, you have to actually go on your computer. You have to actually either ask, a question on a communication tool like Slack, or you have to do a search. So we're talking about like one quarter or 1/3 of all working time that we could actually bring back to people. That's what our vision is. We want to actually make people more productive. We want to get back those 2 hours for them, or every day, so that they can get, so they can do actually a lot more in their day than what they're able to today. So from that perspective, our product, we feel it's applicable to every worker in every business in the world. And our mission will be realized when we know that everybody who we know, our friends, our family, every person who works, they use Glean in their work life, every day, many times a day, to get more things done. So now, with that as a context, so we have a big vision. We feel like this is a very fundamental, very fundamental and universal problem that we're solving. But then you have to actually still focus, like, who do you want to actually help first? And so far, like, our focus has been mostly on working with modern technology companies, and we've been bringing our product to those companies. And then of late, we've actually started to look at a few more knowledge-focused industries like fintech and professional services, industries like those, and bring our product to those industries. So we'll grow over time, but in general, the problem statement, this is universal. All industries, all workers, they all face it.
Arvind, thanks very much for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Really appreciate that.
My guest today has been Arvind Jain, the CEO of Glean. And this has been People Tech, the podcast of the HCM Technology Report. We're a publication of Recruiting Daily. We're also a part of Evergreen Podcasts. To see all of their programs, Visit www.evergreenpodcasts.com. And to keep up with HR technology, visit the HCM Technology Report every day. We're the most trusted source of news in the HR tech industry. Find us at www.hcmtechnologyreport.com. I'm Mark Pfeffer.
Do you love news about LinkedIn, Indeed, Google, and just about every other recruitment tech company out there?
Hell yeah. I'm Chad.
I'm Cheese.
We're the Chad and Cheese Podcast.
All the latest recruiting news and insights are on our show.
Dripping in snark and attitude.
Subscribe today wherever you listen to your podcasts. We out.
The world's best-known investor and Wall Street expert Warren Buffett once said, "Wall Street is the only place that people ride to in a Rolls-Royce to get advice from those who take the subway." Mr. Buffett's quote is remarkably accurate, but how many people would rather receive advice from him than someone simply guessing? Welcome to Buy, Hold, Sell, your single source for Wall Street knowledge and profitable guidance. Please join me, Todd Schoenberger, and fellow trader Tobin Smith, as well as host Veronica Dudo, for a podcast known to move the needle for investors. Tobin and I are seasoned Wall Street executives with deep investment experience, and we are prepared to share our advice to those who choose to listen. Download Buy, Hold, Sell today on the Evergreen Podcast Network or your favorite podcast channel.